back.
Action.
Action. All right. Well, welcome to the Side Action. This is episode 5 of season 3. My name is Jim Weglars, aka Wegs. You can follow me at Wegspool on Twitter and Instagram.
And this is Steve Roberts, aka Action. You can follow me on Twitter at 31sroberts.
Follow the podcast at Side Action Pod on Twitter and on YouTube. Hey guys, we're trying to figure everything out. I've got my ring light here. I hope I look really great. I don't look so splotchy as before. Um, Action's looking great over there. You can see him now.
I got
We're,
my spectacles on tonight.
saw that, your spectacles. I like that. So we're really doing this. What happened over the weekend? Anything exciting?
Oh man, you ask me that every week and I can never remember.
Well, we talked about not to, Action lives in a nice house. I know it's a lovely home, but he deals with the Ferndale rats, which
Oh
are
yes.
renowned. They're nationwide now. Everybody knows about these things. So what's going on with the rat patrol?
You're right. That consumed my weekend. I was on rat duty. Newly minted member of the Ferndale Rat Patrol. It's a
Nice.
Facebook group where we share thoughts and ideas and trapping strategies. And we collaborate too. We go around to other people's houses and look for burrows and
You do?
infiltrate them.
Oh my
So
God.
we're
It's,
burrow busting.
it's an extensive patrol there. I like that. Are you guys also like drinking some beers along the way, or is it kind of a social activity?
Not yet. I think it's a pandemic version of the Rat Patrol, but I expect there'll be some fun at some point along the way.
That's awesome. Well, as I alluded in our outline, the Shockers had an epic game this weekend. Just epic battle of good and evil. We played Flasks and Flags. They are a team that we've beaten in the past, but they've beaten us too. Kind of an elusive quarterback. The week before we had a kind of resounding victory over a kind of a rookie team.
Hmm.
This team, obviously, you have to play decent to win. Your cousin, QB1, he threw 4 interceptions in the first half. Uh, Luckily, we were only down 14-7. I got a pick in the first to keep us in it. And then in the second half, we kind of like went on a little run. We took the lead. They tied us. Then they took the lead. We basically got another touchdown. We were 2 points back because we like to go for two action. We love
Yeah.
for
Well, it's the right call. I mean, if you're looking at the analytics.
Yeah, right. Except your cousins, analytics, it's kind of like twos and threes. If you can't make a three, it isn't a good idea in basketball. But so anyway, we did hit a couple of them, and I was actually telling him to go for two most of the time. Jimmy Zaronis, our guy, he actually dropped one that got us down by the two. And then all game we had a guest star who was on the sidelines, and that's Schwa, the former captain of the Shockers. And he showed up for the first time in a couple seasons. He didn't play, he didn't warm up, he looked good, but he didn't play until we got the ball back down by the two with eh, about a minute to go. And he gets in there. We run the famous play Brutus, as you know, which is a kind of a juke and jive of the safety in the back of the end zone. And your cousin Mikey threw a dime to Schwa for the game-winning touchdown, with only like 10 seconds to go. It was a very exciting game. Took the win, 34-28, and so the Shockers are undefeated. So we'll have to see what the line is this week. We're playing Indy Team 4. I mean, that's going to be
Yeah.
a pretty big line, I think.
The win and the cover, it sounds like. Checking the latest odds, and it looks like Schwa's last minute play saved some Shockers backers. So that's good.
Yeah, the Shockers backers. I mean, I think the interceptions. I'm sure that there was a prop on the interceptions. Mikey finished the game with 5 interceptions, so he had a critical one in the second half too. But we overcame it, and it was exciting. Anyway,
So can his new nickname be Peterman now of 5 interception fame?
or Jameis, right? Um, the other thing we did, we closed down the schoolyard. Little shout out to the schoolyard. Pour out some for the homies over there. They closed officially on Sunday. It was a long time place, open since '94. We've been going there for at least 10, 15 years. So a little sad. Haven't been there in a couple of years. I guess that's why they closed, right? We stopped going.
Yeah,
But
right. R.I.P.
exactly. But we put a little tribute in, which was nice. Other than that, I had a pretty good day betting, a pretty good weekend betting. I was a mighty 3-0-1 this weekend, so it's good to get back on the positive side.
That's getting it done. No doubt about it. I was up and down a little, I think, but we can bounce back here moving into week 5.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about, there's no real industry updates right now. We've kind of created this segment for COVID updates and I guess weather updates this week. First, I wanted to report that Cam Newton, of course, tested positive. It was after our podcast last week. He missed the game, this week against Kansas City on Monday Night Football. It's speculated he'll probably miss this week too, right? He's going to be out this week.
I would expect. I think it would be hard pressed for him to get enough negative tests lined up in a row. I think it's supposed to be 5 or 6 days worth of negative tests before they can get back on the field. So I think it's unlikely he'll play.
Besides that, and we'll talk about how that affected betting in a minute, but Stephon Gilmore also tested positive for New England, and you noted that there's a picture of him giving a hug to Patrick Mahomes. So this is kind of the tracing issue.
Yeah, it's going to be a wild next couple of days, I expect. I don't think these will be the last couple of tests that come up in the news media this week, and really several games that are going to be in question as to whether or not they'll get played. So We'll have to be flexible here in our picks, and hopefully we can identify some games that are better chances than others to actually play. That'll be part of the handicap here too for the contest.
Yeah, it was interesting last week. We faced a dilemma that we were going to probably originally we're going to take New England before the Cam Newton ideas, or Cam Newton stuff. They were 6.5-point dogs at Kansas City. But then when Cam Newton bowed out, we were all over, of course, Kansas City, which they did end up covering. But at the time, we didn't know if they were going to play the game at all. And you have to make that pick by 5 p.m. Central on Saturday. So we opted not to pick that game and not take the automatic half-point victory, which maybe would have been a better idea in some certain cases this week, Action. But that's the issue with these games. There's so much uncertainty.
Yeah, a number of people, I think 300 or 400, still went with the Chiefs, and ultimately it played out really well for them because the game was played Monday night, which still counted for the contest, and ultimately they ended up getting a winner, although I would argue it was probably not the right side in the end because New England was covering that entire game, and Belichick had a great game plan for Mahomes and the Chiefs, as you expected. And it was really Jarrett Stidham and Edelman who kind of cemented that cover away for the Chiefs on Monday night.
Yeah, with the pick 6, right, or whatever. So
that's Hoyer key. Had some play in that too, I suppose.
Yeah, Hoyer, what can you say? So now the other element that we're talking about, first of all, let's go to that. The Titans had 2 more players test positive for COVID. It's not looking like they might play again this week. Their facility is closed again. I heard on the radio that they basically had some guys do an unsanctioned practice at a high school or something. So look for some fines going towards them. And I know Broccoli Bob's guy might have been one of those guys in Saffold, but it's kind of crazy now that they ran out of their bye that they're either going to have to push to a Monday night game or maybe not play again. So that's just kind of the issue with starting the season.
Yeah, another issue with that game is they're playing Buffalo, who in week 6 is scheduled to play on Thursday night against the Chiefs. So a whole slew of schedule impacts. I don't think the NFL is just going to be able to continuously push these games back a day or 2 days because there's ripple effects.
Yeah, good point. Then there's another situation, non-COVID related. It looks like a hurricane is going to hit the Louisiana area, New Orleans, Hurricane Delta, and they're supposed to play the Chargers this week, right?
Yeah, New Orleans has a home game Monday night, and obviously it's a dome. For our NFL picks, I did do a quick survey, and none of the stadiums in the South are going to be affected. Many of them are indoors, so It's unlikely that they're going to affect actual play on the field. But it did look like they're looking at alternate locations for that New Orleans game, perhaps playing in Indianapolis on Monday night. I'm not sure that would really impact either team too much. I suppose you could argue that the Saints now have to travel instead of playing the home game. It's kind of a regular spot for them needing to travel ahead of what was going to be a home game. But I'm not sure that would affect the line in any way.
Right, especially because there weren't fans down in New Orleans anyway. So, but interesting. I mean, just still disruptive. And 2020, I'll just pour it out for Bon Jovi, man. I mean, it's just been a rough year, dude. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
the hits keep coming. Every day there's something new to deal with in this stuff.
Yeah, I did want to mention though, in that same vein, for those of you listeners who do like to bet college football, there
Hmm.
are a whole number of games that are in the Delta region this weekend, and you've already seen some massive line moves on the totals because they're expecting some very serious wins on Saturday afternoon throughout Mississippi, Louisiana, and Alabama. So, just a general PSA, if you're looking to hit one of these totals that you on the surface think looks a little depressed, I would think twice about that because high wind, as we've talked about in the past, it has a serious effect on college football totals, especially.
Sure, passing game goes out the window, right?
Yep.
Um, all right, well, let's jump into week 4 recap. Just like we've been doing by the numbers, we've got the home teams didn't fare too well this week. Action only 6 winners, 9 for the road wins. So definitely, they took it in the face. We kind of talked about the home field advantage doesn't have as much juice this year, especially with COVID and not the lack of fans. And then the favorites did come out on top this week, which is kind of contrary to our picks, unfortunately. 9 covers for them and 6 for the dogs, which is kind of maybe a little correction, I guess. I'm not sure. We were kind of even going in.
Hmm.
And then lastly, for once, the totals were pretty close. I mean, 8 and 7, 8 over, 7 under. That still puts for the season. There's still more overs for sure, and it actually started off kind of the same way, a bunch of overs in that early window, but later on, those other games kind of slowed down, and they were a lot lower scoring, especially like the Bears Colts game, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah, it was interesting. I think that you had Thursday night, Denver and the New York Jets that went way over, and then almost all of the early games again. But once that afternoon window started, and then all three of the primetime games, Sunday night and both Monday night games, all stayed under the total.
Hmm.
So leads me to think that we might be in line for somewhat of a correction.
Yep.
And, looking at some of the totals that have popped up on the board this week, you see a whole number of games that are opening in the 50s and also a few of them that have started to trend down already. So it'll be interesting to see what the outcome is this week on the totals front.
Yeah, I mean, at some point they're gonna, whether the books are gonna catch up or just the scoring will go down. One of those two things is gonna happen. So it's pretty likely. I think you're right. Let's go over some specific games. I mean, some of them were not in our favor. We went 2 and 3 this week. A little preview, but the Lions, they let us down, but they started off guns a-blazing, 14-0 up on the Saints at home. Gave up 35 unanswered points. Action. Good God, it was like they were just getting destroyed at one point. Of course, that's a Matt Patricia defense. You know that's going to happen, but they kind of gave us some hope there. They started pushing late, and they got up to 29, but not within the number we needed, which was 4.5, I believe. So that's you've already noted that's the 6th consecutive game that Detroit's blown a huge lead.
Yeah, yeah, 6 games in a row where they've been up by 10 and at some point in the game trailed. They did come back to beat the Arizona Cardinals the week before, but 5 out of 6 of those games ended up being L's for Matt Patricia and the gang.
Yep.
And it was really kind of they gave up those 35 unanswered. They did come back and score 15 of their own to
Mhm.
close within 6, but it wasn't enough for us to get to the window. I was fortunate to get back into the teaser window, though, in one of my spots.
Attaboy, way to tease it up. Another one that didn't go our way, but it seemed like the right way, was the Chargers go down to Tampa Bay. They looked awesome in the first half. Justin Herbert looked great. They were up 24-7. They had a pick six of Brady, which now he's had a pick six in each of the first 4 games, hasn't he? And
Mm-hmm.
but somehow, they mishandled a kind of a snap to a handoff to run out the clock in the first half, fumble inside their 5-yard line. Brady gets them in the end zone, 2014, and that kind of spurred a 21 unanswered point run by the Bucks to take the lead in that game. Herbert did hit somebody big to kind of go back and forth, but ultimately threw a pick late, and the Bucks not only won the game, but they covered the number. In the contest, it was 6.5. I was lucky enough to do in-game action at 7.5 when they fell down 7-0 early because I didn't get in before the game started. So I actually cashed this ticket, but I think Tampa's looking pretty damn good.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think the best unit on the field on Sunday was that Tampa Bay defense. they held the Chargers running attack completely to almost nothing. You saw that Austin Eckler went out early in the first half, but even the rookie Joshua Kelly couldn't get anything going on the ground. And it's clear that this Tampa defense is going to carry them quite a ways. Tom Brady had a pretty good game too after the early pick six, 5 touchdowns, I think you mentioned.
Yep.
But I was also impressed again with Justin Herbert. A great game by him, 290 passing yards and 3 touchdowns of his own. A big time bomb late in the third quarter that got them back into the game, had me fist pumping a little bit. But I think that Anthony Lynn did us in that pick. The decision before halftime to run a read option in their own red zone where Herbert and Kelly fumbled, and that allowed Tampa Bay right back into the game and kind of sealed our fate.
Yeah, the Anthony Lynn factor is big. I think he's a good guy, probably a really good position coach, but he's not a great head coach. You got to make better decisions. And, this team is better than, we can talk about them later, but they're better than their record shows, I think. I mean, they obviously didn't play well, I guess, against the Panthers, but, they played pretty well this season, and that defense couldn't hold up eventually, to that Bucs. I think they made an adjustment. They were showing kind of on the analysis that early in the game, the Chargers were getting to Brady and putting a lot of pressure on him. But later they were kind of running 3 tight end sets, but getting them all in the pattern and getting guys open. Now, Gronk did actually make a catch for once, but we'll see how that turns out long term. I think O.J. Howard is out for the year for them. Isn't that right?
That's correct. Achilles tear. They have a whole number of injuries that came up to. Gronk's on the injury report. Okay. Godwin's still there on a short week traveling to Chicago. Right. It's going to be a tough turnaround for the Bucs.
Interesting. The next game I kind of noted, it wasn't in our picks. We were contemplating it last week, was the Panthers. They actually might be better without McCaffrey, which is kind of crazy. They won. They were ahead this whole game. They were kind of beaten up on Arizona, who maybe we can talk about why that's happening. But your guy, Steady Teddy, he gets their second win in a row, and I think they're a legit team to just kind of be in the middle of the pack and mix it up on a week in week out basis.
Yeah, definitely agree. This Bridgewater team certainly he's not gonna make any big turnovers or boneheaded mistakes that gets his team out of the game like some other quarterbacks are prone to do. And he actually showed a little bit of legs this week, a big time touchdown run from inside the red zone, which busted a player prop of mine. But Bridgewater was excellent. And I think that on the flip side, you have to start asking some questions about the Arizona Cardinals. That's 2 weeks in a row now that Kyler Murray and company have underimpressed.
Yeah, and of course they go to the Jets. They might be a elixir for that.
To get right.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll see. You're right. They haven't been as good as they were the first couple of weeks. So we'll see what happens. The next game was Vikings go down to Houston, and we were kind of contemplating Houston in this spot. Glad we didn't, because Houston looked bad again. They were down big. Bill O'Brien finally fired. I think he really did it himself in by that DeAndre Hopkins trade. But he's out as GM and coach with the 0-4 start for Houston. They lose the game 31-23. They were 5-point favorites. They had no chance in covering that game.
Yeah, that was a tough watch. I had a personal wager on the Texans and fired on them live a few times. I think when you look at the box score, though, it was relatively even. Ultimately, I wouldn't say that the Vikings outperformed. Certainly performed higher than expectation, but now with Bill O'Brien on the outs, they're rolling out Romeo Crennel as the stand-in coach, which I'm not so certain is going to be an upgrade on any level for this season.
No, agreed. He's had his shot before, right? At Kansas City maybe, or somewhere like that. He's been okay, but I mean, it's just kind of trying to right the ship since it's a disaster, especially, we'll see. I mean, losing the GM at the same time too. I don't know who's the interim GM, but there's not a lot of deals being made right now for like trades and such, but it kind of matters because that's kind of the scouting for next year. It's an interesting move by the Texans. I know why they fired him.
Well, they have no picks, Wegs. I don't know they need a GM if they have no draft picks. So.
Good point. It's the Ryan Pace theory of drafting. Well, let's look at this one. We finally were on the right side here. The Browns go down to the Cowboys and just bludgeon them to death initially. They were killing this team. They were up, what, 41 to 14 or 41 to 20 or something, rushing for 307 yards. Somehow, as they always do, the Cowboys are so talented on offense, they roar back. They cut it to within 3 points. It was 41 to 38 before the Odell Beckham run, for the big reverse touchdown. I'm glad we were on the right side here, but wow, this Cowboys team, this defense is as bad as it gets.
Yeah, yeah, really bad. Dak Prescott was great though in the comeback,
Right.
500 passing yards, four more touchdown passes for him.
Hmm.
But the Dallas secondary is just terrible. I think they have got to be ranked near the bottom of the league in pass defense, and the running defense too. I think you mentioned it. The Browns racked up 300 yards even without Nick Chubb. You had the Ernest guy stepping in and filled his shoes admirably. I was super impressed with the Browns' run game on that side of the ball as well. I think that that was really a commanding performance by them. The other thing I wanted to mention is the second half spread in this one. I don't know if you caught it.
Mm-mm.
The Browns were catching 7 points, up
Okay.
17 at halftime. And
Mm.
after the OBJ long touchdown run, the PAT would have tied the second half spread, but it
Oh,
got blocked and into the end zone, and the Browns recovered.
yeah.
So
Two
that
points.
swung that swung the second half spread, and the Browns ended up getting the cash in that one.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, I was here watching with a friend and we weren't quite sure what the rule was. So I guess if it is a block, then you can return it for a touchdown,
Hmm.
something. That's interesting on both ends, but fascinating situation there. Uh, One of the things I'm going to note about the Cowboys, we'll talk a little bit about them later, but they're a league leading, meaning league bottom, -7 in turnover differential. I mean, this team keeps turning the ball over. Obviously, ball security is one thing, but also Dak Prescott early too. So it's picks and fumbles. This team is just killing themselves early. With all that talent on offense, they should be better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then the next game that didn't work for us was Miami. Miami, they looked pretty good against Seattle. I mean, Seattle's defense, we can talk about them later. They're not very good either, but they could not get this done. We had this game, I think, at 5.5, or was it 6? It was maybe 6.
It was six in
Uh,
the contest.
yeah, we had 6 points, and they ended up losing 31-23. They had opportunities kind of middle of this game. They cut it to 17, like 15, but it was field goals instead of touchdowns. And then Seattle just kind of did what they do. They hit big plays, and Russell Wilson is on pace right now with like kind of the all-time great seasons for touchdown passes through 4 games.
Yeah, this one really stung because I watched the Red Zone channel and watched the replay last night, and
Mhm.
Miami really should have covered. They were in it throughout. They did get beaten in the box score. Seattle had 7.1 yards per play compared to Miami's 6.1, and were better on passing yards per play as well. But Miami moved the ball on them. They were down inside the Seattle territory 5 times, all chances to score, and all five ended in field goals.
Right.
So, and I think that the defensive lapse right before the half was absolutely killer too. Miami closed
That's
the
right.
game to 1 point, and then they allowed a Seattle receiver to get behind them, and Wilson threw a bomb, and they ended up scoring a touchdown to go up by 8 right before the half, and that was just horrible for the bottom line score.
That's right. That's right. They are going to start Fitzpatrick again this week, despite the interceptions. So the Tua era has not started, but I kind of expect that to start soon if they lose another game or two.
Hmm.
The last game is your squad. I know you're happy. My buddy was watching with was shocked they took the Colts, but we were on the right side here. The Colts, they came into Chicago. They took care of business. Philip Rivers didn't have to do anything really, but that defense really showed well, winning 19-11, and that honestly it wasn't even that close. It was a late score by the Bears to get them to 11. They only had 3 points most of the game and really couldn't do anything against this Colts front. Nick Foles in the starting role. Sometimes he's better coming off the bench, right? He just didn't get it done. And, more importantly, I just think that they didn't run the ball. They got 28 yards rushing in this game against that Colts front. So it'll kind of be strength against strength when we talk about the Colts Browns.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely a masterful performance by that defense. And even after the adjustments now on Football Outsiders, DVOA still ranked number one in
Mhm.
total defense and number two against the pass. So certainly a surprise to me when you look at this defense and their preseason expectations. I think that they're really coming together, and Rock Sin coming back into the lineup was huge for them. He had some big time plays. But I think the major concern that I have on this Colts team is their inability to finish drives. Similar to Miami, we talked about in the last game, they were
Right.
in the red zone a number of times and just couldn't get the ball into the end zone. And against teams that are better suited than the Chicago Bears, that's going to come back to bite them.
Yeah, Mo Ali Cox, I think, had another touchdown, but he's really the only guy in the red zone they're looking for. I mean, they're trying to do some kind of gimmicky stuff with Naeem Hines. Hilton's a good receiver, but he's not a big receiver, which you really need in the red zone. And if they're not going to run the ball effectively enough in the red zone with Taylor, then you're right. They're going to settle for field goals, and that'll cost them, later. Well, let's talk about positives and negatives from the week. You, of course, have already talked about it, and I have too. The Cleveland running game, just even without Nick Chubb, they got this done. I mean, Kareem Hunt
Mm-hmm.
stepped in, running all over. Who was the other guy? It was Jackson
Ernest
Johnson.
DeForest or Ernest, I don't know. He was a big waiver wire pickup this
Yeah,
morning.
Johnson, I think
Johnson.
that's his last name. Yeah, he just ran all over the place, but they were kind of looking I was looking at NFL Live yesterday and they were just showing this run scheme. And I think it's Conklin. I think he really helps out on the right side. He's a road grader, as they call him. He's really helping him out. And then, despite Baker not playing that great, they're really getting it done.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Yeah. And I also noted TB12. We talked about Brady. He had 5 touchdown passes, like you said. And we thought that Chargers defense was going to play pretty well, and they did early, but second half, they just lit them up.
Yeah, definitely not quite the performance that we expected out of that Chargers defensive line. Getting after Brady, they had almost no pressure on him, and it showed in the final box score.
Right. I know you're not on board with me yet, but Josh Allen for MVP, man, this dude is still playing at a huge level, and I just like watching his film because he's just zipping the ball, making, obviously running a little bit, avoiding the rush. The guy's just got a cannon. So it's nice to see him be successful. Of course, Wilson and is on top of this right now, but he's still a dark horse.
Yeah, I heard some discussion today over the airwaves, chatter about Josh Allen and MVP possibilities. I think I heard 15 to 1 or 12 to 1. Not sure if you've shopped around yet, Wegs, but
Got to get on
I
that.
I'm not sure I can get there yet. I think that Buffalo certainly has a strong capability of winning this division and even rattling off a 12 and 4 or 13 and 3 type campaign, which
Mhm.
could go a long way. But there's some names above him that are going to be difficult to leap.
You are correct, including this guy, Aaron Rodgers. This dude is balling, man. So to give me some of these stats.
327 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and that's still 0 on the entire season.
Mhm.
Aaron Rodgers is in a zone right now that I think has come from his ability to watch film. I've been
Mhm.
hearing that he spent all pandemic watching himself and realizing these mechanics that he had off in his game, and he is a master with the football right now.
He looks great, and I obviously growing up a Bears fan, you're an anti-Packers fan immediately, but it's hard to be sad and be upset about greatness, and he really is playing at a great level considering Adams really isn't, he's either hurt or not at the top of his game. And I mean, Aaron Jones is playing really well, but I think that he's finally adapted to the LaFleur system and he's looking really comfortable in it. Well,
Yeah,
let's talk about, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to mention, I'm still waiting to see him go up against a real secondary,
Right.
another cupcake on the schedule this week with the Atlanta Falcons. So I'd like to see him go against my Colts defense, but we'll have to wait for the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Well, they're playing the Colts this year.
Oh, that's right.
They'll
You're
play the
right.
Colts in the regular season. No worries. Don't worry.
That's right.
We'll see if, Rock Sin, let's see if you can stop him. I doubt it. The negatives, we talked already about your guy getting the axe in Houston. They drop it to 0-3 Vikings. We'll see. I mean, that's probably a good move. And then the Dallas defense. I mean, I've already mentioned this. I don't know if there's a worse defense in football right now.
Well, according to Football Outsiders, there's one, two, three, eight of them. So
Okay.
Dallas is at 24 in the efficiency ratings. So I agree, though, on paper. I mean, them and the Seattle defense, Atlanta is up there in my mind. Those teams are just over machines,
Yeah.
and I don't see how they're going to turn them around very quickly.
We'll see. We'll see. You've already mentioned some of these injuries. Nick Chubb, he's out 6 weeks right now with a knee issue. OJ Howard out for the season with the Achilles. Austin Eckler's out 6 weeks. You got Ziggy Ansah's out for the season with a bicep. So the injuries keep coming in this COVID season.
Hmm.
All right, you've already mentioned this Stephon Gilmore stuff, so I guess we could jump into week 3 previews, huh?
Yeah, week 5, ready to
So
go.
So we may get this out in time for tomorrow's game. I don't want to spend a ton of time on it because it's not a contest pick, but kind of some interesting line movement here for the Tampa Bay Bears game. The Tampa looks so good on Sunday, and Brady's been playing well. It started off kind of where it's at now, isn't it? It was around 3 to open up. It kind of went up to 4.5, 5.5. It's coming back down. I saw 3.5 at least at Bet Rivers recently.
Wow, no kidding. Yeah, I mean, opened up 3 on Sunday night right before Sunday Night Football and quickly jumped to 6. I
Hmm.
actually grabbed a little bit of Chicago +6 myself. Not
Okay.
that helps anyone listening now, but I still think that there's value on the Chicago Bears. Not enough for us to put in our contest picks tomorrow, but if you can grab a 4, I still like Chicago in this spot. I think that Tampa has still been a little bit overrated. And we mentioned earlier in the show that Tampa Bay's injury list right now is lengthy. Looks
Sure.
like Godwin's going to be out again. Mike Evans is on the injury report, which I didn't mention, and Gronkowski. So TB12 is going to be limited a little bit in his options tomorrow night.
Yeah, for sure. That does affect it. Let's go to the next game. Here we got Cincinnati against Baltimore. This opened at 13. It's up to 13 and a half in some spots right now. Uh, I know you're not going to get on my bandwagon, especially not with the Ravens, but the Bengals are better. I'm telling you, I hated on them last year. I actually won a futures ticket on the losses or wins last year, the under. And I'm not a Joe Burrow guy. Last year I was still dogging him, even though he was winning the Heisman. But he's playing this team's playing pretty good. You didn't want to go on me against Jacksonville, but will you go on against Baltimore with 13 and a half points?
I don't think so. No, I did read today that Lamar Jackson missed practice with a little bit of a knee impingement, but
Yes.
didn't appear to be serious. I just don't think that in today's NFL you find as much value in grabbing these numbers with the underdogs.
Mm.
Certainly think that Cincinnati has been impressive, kind of a beatdown of Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Really, Joe Mixon showed up once this week or this year, and but I think that Baltimore's run defense is going to be ready for that offense. And on the flip side, I think that Baltimore's run game is going to have an equally good effect against Cincinnati. So I think this is a number that they could probably reach.
Okay. I took 13 and a half already, buddy.
Okay, nice.
Okay, so the next one is Carolina at Atlanta. This is an interesting game too. They're 0-4. They're playing terrible. I still don't know how Dan Quinn has a job. I know that the Packers are a pretty good team, but this team has blown some leads. They haven't looked very good, and there's a lot of injuries too. And this seems to be year over year. There's injuries. I'm not sure if that's motivation, if that's training staff, or what. But you got to have the guys on the field. Carolina right now, they're a 3.5 point dog on the road. At least they open that way. Now they're down to like 1 and 2 point,
Mm.
dogs on the road. Um, I'd be inclined to take the Panthers if it stays around 3. Obviously, one's kind of a tough one, but I saw 2.5 last night. So we'll see what the contest line is going to be. But I'm kind of on your steady Teddy bandwagon.
Yeah, I think that we're on the same page here. I also like Carolina in this game. Um, Certainly would like it a lot more closer to 3, but I think it's unlikely given the sharp lines that Circa has put out the past few weeks that
Right.
we'll see anything but 1 or 1.5 maybe. But on the same token, you've seen some money come in on Atlanta week after week. It happened again last night or Monday night, where it
Sure.
was 7.5 all week, and before kickoff, it was down 6.5, 6 in some spots. I know
Sure.
that some of that move had to do with Devontae Adams, but I'm just not sure what all of these supposed sharps see in the Atlanta Falcons.
Right. Well, they have a good offense theoretically, right? It's just, at home they're definitely going to score points. They always do, no matter who their opponent. It's just that defense is terrible. And Carolina seemed to be moving the ball against. I mean, I thought the Chargers were pretty good. They did really well. Obviously, they played great against Arizona. I mean, they even showed something late after McCaffrey got hurt when they were going against Tampa. They were trying to get in the back door there. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, this team's Matt Rule seems to have this group playing very well.
Yep.
Next game is the Vegas Raiders playing against the Chiefs. This is in Arrowhead. We'll see if, assuming Mahomes is going to play, especially with this line, open at 11 and a half, but it's ballooned up to either 13 to 14 and a half in some spots. I mean, obviously we love the Chiefs. They're still my team. And I did do the index. I'm not going to reveal all of it, but the Chiefs are the top team. They're the number one team in the index. Uh, and that's because their defense is playing really well. They're not giving up many points.
Yeah.
So the only way to go for me is the Chiefs, but I don't know how you feel.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think that I would look towards Las Vegas at all in this one. Their defense is near the bottom of the league, that ranked 31st in both pass and rush defense, and that's not a recipe for success against the Kansas City team.
Right.
So, presuming that they stay healthy and the game actually plays, I think that we could consider the Chiefs at a number under 2 touchdowns.
Okay. Okay. Keep that in mind. Vegas didn't really show up that great against the Bills. They did get some scores to keep it interesting, but the Bills were solid all game in that one. So we'll see. The next game is off the board right now. That's Buffalo against Tennessee, and it's kind of a shame. I think initial lines, I was kind of interested in the Titans being at home.
Mhm.
Buffalo was kind of getting a lot of love there, but we'll just have to see. I don't think it's going to be played, or at least it's not going to be on the board right now. Next one is Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, an intriguing game. The Steelers are home. They got their bye week early, so that's kind of unique. They're 7-point favorites at home. That seems to be holding up. I see 7.5 at Bet Online, but 7 seems to be the number here. I haven't been seeing the totals here. This is 46. I'm sorry, 44 or so, 44 and a half. I don't know. Okay, I'm sure we're going to be on different sides of this, but Philly did what we needed to do. At least I bet against the 49ers in that spot. Philly needed to win. The Steelers are undervalued in this situation. I don't know what in my index when I do this, and I know it's early in the season to do it. They should be the biggest favorite at home, and they're not. I know what it is. The Eagles played really well, but 7 is a tough number. But I'd almost take it. Action. I don't know about you.
You mean laying it with the Steelers?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that I'm right there with you. I don't think I could see myself on the flip side taking the Eagles in this game,
Mhm.
especially after the layoff from the Steelers. You saw a lot of players coming out and really quite angry that
Mhm.
Tennessee disrupted their schedule, and I
Sure.
think that Pittsburgh is going to be a little bit hungry this week. Gave them another week to get healthy. They had some offensive line injuries that I think would probably be key to monitor before this one, but the Philadelphia defense was not very impressive the first couple of weeks, and then they went up against Nick Mullins, who was not ready to play on Sunday night. So
Right.
I
Exactly.
think we could probably discount that performance. And also, the Pittsburgh defense is one of the tops in the league, and I think that they're going to be interested in getting right this week.
I don't know if you have any statistics to back this, but when I watched that game on Sunday night, obviously looking for my cover for the Eagles, the offensive line cannot protect Carson Wentz. And
Yep.
we've been dogging Wentz all season. He hasn't played very well, but he's running for his life all the time. And it's weird because they're not really trying to run the ball that much, at least against the Niners. But this Pittsburgh defense has the pass rush to keep up with him. And more importantly, they're going to stuff that run too. So the only way they keep inside this number to me is if this game is really low. And I mean, the total's showing it, one of the lower ones on the board. But I think with a week off, the Steelers are going to be able to score some points.
Yeah. Yeah. Pittsburgh, number one ranked defensive line. So I think that's a great angle.
The next one is the Rams against Washington. This opened at 9.5 point favorites for the Rams and 46 point total. It's right in that range, but it's gone down. The line's gone down about 7 or 7.5. Do you think this is because the change of quarterback? They're going to Kyle Allen in lieu of what's his name, the Ohio State guy.
Haskins.
Haskins.
Dwayne Haskins.
And he's going down to the third in the depth chart. They elevated Alex Smith to the backup. So do you think that's why the move on the line?
No, the line was pretty well settled before that news broke this morning. And I don't think you've seen any additional movement one way or another, which tells you that odds makers and sharp bettors both agree that the move from Haskins to Kyle Allen probably doesn't move the needle much. Mm-hmm. I think the bigger part of this handicap is really just trying to understand what the LA Rams have going on their side of the ball. Looked terrible against the Giants, one of the worst defenses in the league. Mm-hmm. Jared Goff only threw for 200 passing yards, and I think a quarter of that was on one play to cut that sealed the game.
55 yards, yeah.
So we have to monitor the status of Chase Young. I think he'll probably be important to this one, but I would only look to the Washington football team here. That defensive line is nasty, and I think that when Jared Goff gets some pressure in his face, the LA Rams has a tough time moving the football.
When I first looked at the number at 9.5, I was going to jump all over it, but it quickly came down. So if it's 7.5, it seems like a good number, maybe. But we'll see. I'm not really sure what to think because Washington hasn't played that great either. I know that line is we love that, like 5 first-round picks on that starting defensive line, but I don't know. They haven't played that great. If they can play better offensively, maybe we'll see. They were just in catch-up mode last week. They had no chance.
Yeah, well, I mean, the other major factor that we should discuss is Kyle Allen and his small hands. I think that it's pretty well documented that he had a fumbling problem last year, and going against the LA Rams defense and Aaron Donald up front, it's certainly not a quarterback that I would feel great going to the window with.
Sure. The next game is Arizona against the Jets. The Jets are hosting Arizona, and they opened at 8.5 point dogs at home, total being 46. That's kind of settled out about 7 points now, and then the total right around 47 now. I mean, I can't touch this game. I originally was all over the Jets because I think Arizona's kind of as you always call them, paper tigers, and they're 2-2 now. They're showing their real colors, but the Jets stink. And it looks like Sam Darnold's probably not going to play this week, which isn't an upgrade to, what's his name? Joe Flacco? I didn't know he's still in the league. So there's still no weapons for Flacco. He's immobile back there. I'd stay away from this game. I don't know about you.
Yeah, another confirmed announcement, quarterback change. And from what I read, I don't think it's injury related. It
really?
appears to be a benching. Darnold for Flacco.
They said that he's got a shoulder problem.
Okay.
Maybe it's kind of, I agree when it's like week to week shoulder problem. Well, that means can he stop throwing interceptions? I mean, is that what we're trying to do?
Yeah. I gotta think that going to Flacco is a downgrade. Personally, the market hasn't moved a tick since this announcement came out. I agree with you wholeheartedly that there's no way that I could back the Jets, whether it's Darnold or Flacco or Joe Namath right now. But I also don't know that I feel warm and fuzzy about laying 7 points with Cardinals the way they've been playing.
Right, agreed. The next one's kind of interesting. Jacksonville's going to Houston. Obviously, Houston just fired the coach. Jacksonville's opening up as a 6.5 point dog on the road. 52.5 was when it opened. It's ballooned up to 54.5, and then where it's about 6.5. This is one of these spots. it's early for the index. The index tells me to take the Jags because Houston literally is the worst team in the index right now. But do
Wow.
you think that with the firing, they're going to bounce back and play their best game of the year? I mean, 6.5 is kind of a big number considering this team hasn't won a game yet.
Yeah, I had this exact same thought process that rolled through my mind. I was so prepared to bet on the Jaguars this week as well. Was kind of hoping I could squeeze out a full touchdown there, but after the news of the O'Brien firing, I think you definitely need to take that into consideration
Sure.
because historically teams get a jolt of energy after a move like that is made. And I also read reports this morning that J.J. Watt and Coach O'Brien got into it at practice last week.
Hmm.
So it seems like, based on that news, that this is going to be a positive for the locker room. So
Okay.
that would give me even more pause in looking towards the Jaguars here. I will say, though, that the move up on the total is probably warranted.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah, for sure. All right, this one's maybe not as interesting. Miami is going to San Francisco, and I don't. You can tell me who's starting there. At this point, it's a nine. They're 9 point favorites at the opener. It's between 8 and 9.5. The total is off. Was off the opening. It's only in one spot. I guess they're waiting for a quarterback announcement in San Francisco. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, I'm sure that this number is, it looks like it's off the board even at a couple of places.
Hmm.
Certainly has to do with the quarterback.
Right.
Um, I kind of half expected that Jimmy G would return this week, but I got to be honest, I don't know that would make much of a difference to the number in my mind, at least. Mullins was serviceable. Granted, that was against the Jets the week before, but certainly laid an egg on Sunday night. And Beathard came in, moved the ball, got them down into scoring position, and almost right back into the game. Um, I would probably like to look at the Dolphins here, take a pretty serious look at them. This is
Right.
a lot of points for San Francisco to be laying, and regardless of the quarterback, I don't think this offense has really shown much this season.
And the Dolphins aren't the Giants, right? So I mean, San Francisco got fed by beating the Jets and the Giants in New York. Miami is not a great team, but they're decent. I mean, they've won a game, but it's more important that they've kind of kept it close against, like Seattle. We talked about they were almost in there, and
Mhm.
obviously they were close to Buffalo. Those were home games for them. They did get beat by the Patriots. It's just a long trip. I'm not sure. Let's look at it. Again, San Francisco is one of these teams. It's a well-coached team, so they're not going to totally, fuck it up. Sorry, America, for swearing, but bottom line is like I don't know, man. Like this could be a team that the defense turns up a little bit. Fitz Magic throws two picks, pick sixes, the game's over. So
Yeah, that could definitely happen. All right.
here's another game that we think is going to be played. Denver is going to New England in the late spot. New England opened as an 11-point favorite in this one. It's like 10.5 to 11 right now, depending on where it's at. BetOnline has it off the board. There's no total. You don't know if Cam Newton's going to play. Probably won't. Stephon Gilmore is probably not going to play. So this could be another one that moves again. Who knows?
Yeah.
I didn't, initially I was kind of on the Patriots in this spot, but then I also said, gosh, like, I mean, Stidham looked terrible. So did Hoyer. I could get 11. If I could get 11 points, maybe I'd take it with Denver.
Yeah, I agree. I actually, when after we spoke last week, saw the Cam Newton news. I
Mhm.
immediately looked for a Kansas City bet. Couldn't get that in, but I jumped ahead to week 5 and locked in Denver plus 11 myself.
Nice.
So got that one in the account. And I would be surprised though that we see a circa contest line at that number if Cam is indeed out.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm not sure that I would want to play Denver anything over a touchdown, even with the Stidham or Hoyer quarterback situation. They're equally playing. I mean, Brett Rippon is still the quarterback, and we saw
Yeah.
him torch the Jets, but that was the Jets. So,
That's right. He still had a pick
uh,
six in that game too, Brett Rippon. So
yeah, true. I would also add, though, I don't know that Stidham looked as bad as the numbers indicated. He threw 2 interceptions, but one of those was clearly on Edelman.
mhm.
And I certainly would hope that the Patriots go with him over Hoyer.
Yeah, I mean they're going to run the ball, right? They're going to try to just run the ball, kind of do what they do against the Chiefs. Just pummel the ball, try to set up play action, make it simple.
Hmm.
We'll just see if Denver's defense can figure that out, and I think they probably can. We'll discuss it, see what happens with when the lines come out.
Yep.
Next one is actually a really exciting matchup. I mean, we've kind of alluded to both these teams already in the review. The Colts are going to Cleveland. We know that the Colts are playing really well. They're 2.5 point favorites on the road, though. It opened at that. Now it's anywhere between 1 and 2.5. So it's kind of a wavering line depending on where you're looking. If you want a line shop, the total was 47. It seems stable there. Man, this is a tough spot. I think that the Colts defense probably matches up pretty good against that running game for the Browns,
Mhm.
but I'm a little concerned about scoring. When it comes to the Colts, as we talked about, I'm seeing two at Rivers. You have any thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I can tell you that I took 2.5 points with the Browns already.
Mm-hmm.
Um, actually opened up in some spots as a pick 'em on Sunday
Hmm.
night and quickly
Interesting.
moved towards the Colts.
Hmm.
And I think that watching the line movements over the past couple of days, there's probably a little bit of a battle going back and forth between two different groups where you see the line tick down to 1 and then back up to 2.5 for the Colts. So it even touched 3 for a few minutes,
Oh
I
wow.
saw. Um, but I think that you really got to ask yourself, how do you compare the Browns and the Bears?
Mhm.
Because this number in its current state tells you that somebody thinks that those two teams are even, and
Yeah.
I don't think that. I think that I like the Browns in that spot, and that leads me to think that there's some value on them in this matchup, even without Chubb.
Yeah, well, that's somebody. Could be the index. Actually shows the Browns slightly better in the index. They are better at 14.5 versus 16.5, but they're both kind of middle of the pack there. They're not above and beyond, but the Browns would be better for sure. So I get your point. I think you're right. We talked about it last week. In some cases there was a little trepidation on my part to take the Colts in that situation, but I think in this one it's a mistake. So I can get on the Browns in this one.
Okay.
Mike will be happy about that.
Yeah. Before we go to the Sunday nighter, I think we skipped over the Giants, the Giants at the Dallas
Oh, I'm
Cowboys.
sorry. Must have advanced too fast. Yeah, this is an interesting game. The Giants are going to the Cowboys, and they were open up as 11.5 point favorites, 53 being the total. The total's up to 54. This can be anywhere from 9.5 to 10. It's just what do you believe, right? The numbers tell you that these teams are much closer because the friggin' Dallas is so bad when they turn the ball over all the time. I think on paper, Dallas is the better team, but I know it's only week 4, but if I followed my index, you have to take the Giants. And I can't, it's hard for me to do that, man. No way.
Definitely
Got to
not
take the
taking the
Cowboys.
Giants. I won't let us take the
Will
Giants.
you take the Cowboys?
I will. Yeah, I'm
Yeah?
prepared to lay it in this spot. I think that the Giants are going to have a really hard time stopping the Cowboys
Oh,
at
yeah.
all.
That's everybody. What about the
And
defense? Do you think that Daniel Jones will have a career day and score? He'll put up 5 touchdown passes against this terrible defense.
no, I don't think so. I think that this Giants offense has been equally under impressive. So
Hmm.
I think when you're putting these two foes against each other on the field, I think that Dallas is going to be able to stack up against them. And to be
Right.
honest, they may not have to stop them all that often because Dak Prescott and his side are going to put up some points. And I think that there's also some positive regression due for the Cowboys in terms of that turnover margin. Certainly don't expect to see a team go that far out of whack in the negative.
Right. And the Giants they're -4 in turnover differential too. They're not good.
Okay. Okay.
I mean the Cowboys are they're just we talked about this last year, didn't we? It's like the same exact conversation as last year. The Cowboys offense is incredible. Their defense is terrible. They haven't fixed the problems obviously over the last year. And I picked them to go to the Super Bowl. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
on Team Cowboys, but they got to show me something. And I think it's part of it's coaching. I do think McCarthy sucks, and he doesn't have his team ready to play. And part of it is I think the Cowboys know they can come back against most teams, especially like the Giants. So, maybe a first half, I'll take the Giants in the first half or something, because they've been, I would say the Cowboys may have been the worst first half team this season so far. They're a
Mhm.
great second half team, fourth quarter team, they're incredible. So, we'll see. I may get on you with the Cowboys. You can talk me into it if we don't have great other picks. It's just hard to stomach those guys.
Yeah, I think that you're onto something there. Don't want to gloss over that. Looking at Dallas at halftime here sounds like a phenomenal wager. You can sign
Mhm.
me up for that.
Right. All right, now let's get to the Sunday night game. You've got Minnesota going to Seattle. Seattle is flying back and forth across the country every week, it seems like. Now they are at home. It opened up at 7.5. Huge total of 58, which is really staying there. It's 57.5. But, the spread's about the same, 7 or 7.5. Seattle's defense, it's interesting. You look statistically, they are almost as bad as the Cowboys. It's weird. Their offense is so good with Russell Wilson, but their defense has given up massive yardage. And unlike the Cowboys, they're not turning the ball over. They actually are +5 in the turnover differential, which I think is really the difference between those two teams. I
Mm.
mean, they're giving up 476 yards a game, which is worst in the NFL. And then somehow their points are only, they're only giving up 27 points a game on defense, whereas, the Cowboys are giving up like 36 or something like that. But it's mainly turnovers, right? So do you believe in the Seahawks? Do you think the Vikings are a good spot to play for the underdog?
Oh, I like the Vikings a lot here in this spot. I think that I certainly have ragged on them the first couple of weeks, but they have found something here in the rookie wide receiver, Justin Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
Another monster day, over 100 receiving yards. And I think that he has stepped in and filled Stephon Diggs' shoes very admirably.
Mm-hmm.
Um, 7 points is a lot for this Seattle team to lay. Granted, they do have the passing attack who is capable of scoring at a moment's notice, but I think Minnesota does too. And when you face off against that secondary, Seattle 29th ranked in pass defense, I think that catching 7 is a good spot. What do you think about that one?
Wah, 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 wah. I'm doing sound effects now. Cousins is not playing at 1 o'clock. Is that what you're saying? You're going to back
True.
Cousins in a non-1 o'clock spot?
That is a very important point.
Look, he's actually played okay in this spot. I think he played okay a couple years ago at Seattle, if I'm recalling correctly, on a Monday night game. He can play really well. I mean, Dalvin Cook is obviously having a great year.
Mhm.
I mean, I agree with you. 7 and 7.5 points would be great. I mean, if you get 7.5 the contest, it's like almost an automatic. But I don't
Yeah.
think you're going to see it. It's probably going to be 6.5 in the contest. So we have a tough decision to make. And so, we'll have to review our picks later. But I don't know. It's a tough one. I think that Minnesota defense is equally pretty bad this year so far. It's really the turnovers again. One team's +5 turnover differential, the other one's -4. What Kirk Cousins is going to show up? So maybe I can be talked into it too, but that's my biggest handicap in this game.
I agree. I think a 6.5 number in the contest would be difficult to stomach.
Right. The last game, as we said, may be moved to Indy, but it's going to be technically a home game for New Orleans. They're playing the Chargers. They opened up as a 7.5 point favorite, which is pretty consistent, maybe up to 8 in some spots. Total was at 52. It's down to 50, between 50 and 51. When I saw this initially, I was all over the Chargers again. I don't know why. There's certain teams we always pick, Action. I know I do. I love the Chargers every year. We talked about it actually on, was it Sunday or something, that all the Sharps love this team for the last 3 years and they can't get it done. But I think defensively they're pretty solid. The Saints are, you know, we've talked about it. They're underperforming at some level, whether it's Breeze, who looked better this week, or
Mhm.
that defense, which hasn't been as good as it has in years past. I'd take the 7.5. It probably will be 6.5 in a contest, but what do you think?
I think that this number actually might come out at 7.5 or 8, to be honest with you, and that probably tells you a little bit of a story. I'm not sold that the Chargers are going to be the side in this game.
Mm,
I think that Drew Brees and his downfall has been a little bit overplayed, to be honest. And
sure.
I also expect that Michael Thomas and some of his weapons may be returning for this game. So
Okay.
that's another thing I like to keep my eye out on.
Yeah, I did already take the Chargers +8, FYI.
Okay. Okay.
So we could spread across exposure there. Um, well, let's
I
look at.
think that New Orleans is going to be a phenomenal teaser leg if you're into that sort of thing.
You know, I like the teasers action. Who doesn't like the teasers? But we're talking about football here. So, but yeah, no, you're right. If they're at 7.5 or 8, and then you get them tease them down to, say 2 or 1.5, that's a pretty good action there. Nice job, action. Well, let's talk about the week 5 in Circa. Just a review of last week. We went 2-3. Wah, wah, not so great. We finished 60% for the first quarter, which is pretty good. It's 480th place right now. I do want to tell you that the guy who won the first quarter went 18-1-1 though. Not that that's going to happen every quarter, but that's phenomenal for that guy. And the guys who finished second and third were actually tied for second at 17-3. Excellent. So we couldn't even have done it if we'd have gotten perfect last week, but we know what we have to aspire to. But overall, pretty good first quarter for us.
Yeah, I'm happy with 12-8. No doubt about it. It's a positive start, and hopefully we can really catch fire and ascend our way up the leaderboard here.
That's right. So here's some games that I listed already. We can maybe skip over some, but I do like that Steelers, if it's 7, or it's probably going to be 6.5, 7. If it's 7.5, maybe we could get talked out of it, but I'm definitely on the Steelers there. We kind of talked about the Broncos a little bit. We kind of need more information. I do not need you to go with me on the Jets there. I just was listing it.
Fair.
But I did, yeah, Cleveland at 2.5 against Indy. That seems like a good bet. You're not going to get on board with me with the Bengals and 13 at the Ravens, which is fine. You're opposite me on the Chargers Saints, so we'll have to duke that one out, huh? But you wouldn't take the Saints in that spot, would you?
I don't know. I think it's really going to be dependent on the number, to be honest with you. I mean, 7.5 is certainly more palatable than 7 or 6.5.
Right.
So the Circa operators have really thrown us some curveballs in the last couple of weeks. So come tomorrow afternoon, I think we may have a little bit different discussion on some of these games.
Well, they've been doing some line speculation, right? They're putting out a line that hasn't quite gotten there yet, and we have to make a decision. And then sometimes with information, we're kind of parsing out, well, okay, and like COVID stuff happens. I mean, it's a lot to digest. It's a different year than last year.
Mm-hmm.
We both like Panthers at Falcons at 2.5 or hopefully greater. We'll see how that goes. And then you've got Jags Texans. I put that, I think, we don't have to go there if we don't want to. Giants, Cowboys, you think Cowboys all the way there. Titans, Bills is off the board. And then Minnesota +7 at Seattle. So it sounds like if we narrowed it down, we'd like those 3, Steelers, Cleveland, and then the Panthers. It sounds like we have to decide on the Cowboys game, the Minnesota game, and then
we also had Washington highlighted up above.
Right. That's right.
And Kansas City.
Well, sure, Kansas City. If it's you said a touchdown, or was it 10 or a touchdown?
2 touchdowns.
How bad do you think the Raiders are? I mean, I don't think they're bad. I just I don't know. 2 touchdowns. Yeah. That's tough. It'll be tough to stomach. But I know we got to take some more favorites this week, unless we pick the right underdogs. I mean, I think the favorites are going to come back this week after the little market correction.
Yeah, I mean, this is the new NFL, Wegs. All these teams are high flying and scoring at a moment's notice, and I think that 2 touchdown spreads are not insurmountable. Looking at the head-to-head from last season, Kansas City won at home 40-9, and they won on the road 28-10.
No, look, you don't have to. I have my Mahomes jersey in the other room. I forgot to wear it today. Sorry, Action. I was working late, but I'm on team Chiefs. I've already got a bet with a friend about the Chiefs winning the title against the field, and I gave him odds, so I kind of screwed that one up. But
wow.
And I believe.
Wait, what odds?
Oh, like 1.5 to 1. I don't know what. I mean, he wouldn't do the bet otherwise. I just wanted to do straight up $100. I got the Chiefs, you take everybody else. And he wouldn't do it. He's not a real bettor. I just like, I don't care. I'm going to win this bet anyway, whatever. So
Yeah.
100 to 150. I mean, obviously he's in a better position, but I'm that confident in the Chiefs action. I mean, I think they're the best team in the NFL, and it's not really saying much there. I mean, the numbers show it, and you can see it on the field. They're incredible.
Well, it's ironic you say that because I was just discussing this over lunch with Melissa today, and I put in a bet on the Chiefs at plus 350 to win the Super Bowl. So I'm right there with you.
Attaboy. We were on them last year when they were starting to catch fire, and obviously I've been a Mahomes guy. If you look back over the last 3 seasons, I mean, they should have gone to the Super Bowl the year before. I mean, New
Yeah.
England obviously played a great first half and took them to overtime and won. With not for a what was it, D Ford offsides call, they would have gone to the Super Bowl that year, and I think they would have beat the Rams. So, we'll
Yep.
see. I mean, injuries, it's a long season, COVID, whatever, but they're a hell of a football team. But I think on the NFC side, Seattle's playing great football. The Packers are playing great. I'm telling you, man, you watch the Cowboys. They're going to come back. I know that I put some bets on them, but they can't play this bad. They can't play this bad action. They can't continue to play this bad. Otherwise, they should fire McCarthy and just bring in anybody.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm right there with you on the Cowboys.
Yeah. All right. Well, that kind of wraps up the discussion here. I mean, I kind of extended it there, Action. So I
No,
appreciate
it was
everybody for
good.
listening and watching us on YouTube occasionally. Definitely subscribe to us in both locations, and give us some comments, man. We want people to let us know what you're thinking. If you want any money, I know Suter, Rainmaker's always texting me his picks. He's listening to us every week, so thank you. And I know Ridgeway listens to us. You gave her a good consultation on some of these games, not really, last week.
Whoa, whoa! I was on the Cleveland money line. All right.
I know you were, but how about all the other ones? It was like you took every dog, and you're like, well, you're making the case for all the dogs. They went 6-9, but no, it's good. It's good. That's what we're here for, you guys. We're here for you.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, follow me at Wegspool on Twitter and Instagram, and follow the podcast at Silent Action Pod on Twitter.
You can follow me on Twitter at 31S Roberts.
All right. Well, good luck this week.
Good luck, everybody.
All right.
Cool.